Welcome back once again for another Zone of Potential Quick Zap. I'm your host, Coach Corinne. I've been providing content about many topics, but I've yet to address what your zone is, what your zone of potential is. What is your zone of potential? What does it mean to be in the zone or your zone? How do you know you're on the right path in your zone? Imagine, if you will, realizing that everything you do adds value to your zone. This video will touch upon your zone and what it means to realize your purest potential. Before we move on, I do need to let you know that my website is up and running, zoneofpotential.com. You can contact me there and pull down the free downloadable tools as you like. I'm also building out some links to other sites that may help you in each one of the zones. So check it out. Let's get going into what it means to be in your zone. You know how sometimes you wonder why you're doing the things you do, working in the job you're in, hanging with the folks that you hang out with, and living the way you do, etc. The problem is that we get moving so fast and dig in so deep that we don't stop to take a breath and think about where we are, what we're doing, where we want to go next, or maybe basically where we're meant to be instead of where we are. Imagine what it would be like if you took a different path in your zone. Can you see a different outcome than where you are now? Your zone is where all of your experiences take place. It's where you take all that you've learned and all that you've encountered. You determine the usefulness along each pathway in your zone, and you hone your life until you reach your purest potential. But that's not all. So what are these pathways in my zone? Well, you make decisions based on what comes at you or what you mindfully determine you want. You determine what you should and shouldn't do, who you should and should not be with, what you should and should not eat or drink, and what job you should and shouldn't embark upon, among other things. This is where your pathways within your zone come into play. While in the zone, you will come across many forks. Sometimes the forks will have two paths in which to choose from. Sometimes it will have a number of pathways. How do we know what pathway to take? And what if I take the wrong pathway? Can I ever get back into my zone? Well, just keep in mind that you never leave your zone. You are always in your zone. These pathways are necessary for self-growth, for career progression, for relationship building, for your improved or sustained health, for your financial manifesting and other aspects. But they and you remain in your zone. And so what type of pathways are there? Well, basically there's two categories of pathways in your zone. There's life's alternative pathways. These are the pathways that come to you, based on life circumstances that you did not request, desire, or cause. Lots of debate is out there as to why these pathways exist, and some say it could be due to good or bad fate, luck, destiny, fortune, chance, or fill in the blank with whatever word that caused that pathway to happen. Basically, you're in the effect of the cause that was created, and now you're choosing to react or respond. Sometimes the outcome is positive and sometimes not so much. So that's the first one. The second one is intentional pathways. These pathways are the ones you intentionally create for the sake of an outcome. This is where you identify opportunities and create your own effect because you are going to cause it to happen. Debate occurs here also. Oftentimes, when we force our intentions, the outcome winds up not being what we expected or wanted. But the main lesson is that you need to be sure to identify what possibilities are out there that are right for you before you decide to go that pathway. Check out my video from last week where we touched on dwelling in possibilities. It will probably help you to understand how you can be in control and determine what you want in each pathway that you're on. So what's going on back in my zone? As events in your life happen, a new job or venture, firing from a job or loss of a business, marriage, divorce, birth, death, increased finances, you've made choices on how to respond or react within your zone. Or maybe you intentionally created that. What I'm trying to say is that in most cases, fate, luck, destiny, fortune, chance, it doesn't just happen. You would have had to have been somewhere. You'd have had to known someone or done something to get you to realize those opportunities or misfortunes that are going on around you. Basically, it's where you are focusing your attention. And these all remain in your zone for you to learn, to bring with you, to make better informed choices. This is where wisdom comes to fruition. Quite often, simply watching others struggle or advance does not offer us enough lessons for us to encounter those same outcomes in our zone. You own your zone. What you choose to do in it it's totally up to you. But what does my zone look like? Each one of us views our zones differently. Your zone is shaped how you see it. It could be linear, conical, it could be 2, 3 to 4 dimensional. You could have diverse pathways or one whole path. It could be hugely interconnected or separate ventures. However you see it, it's yours. Your pathways are also the way you see them. They're based on your experiences. They could have curves, they could have lines, they could have circles or boxes, they could be branches, connections, they could be intertwined situations. Once again, it's how you see your experiences encompassed within your zone. If you could imagine what your zone would look like, and I know you can, how would it be shaped? And what would your pathways look like? What lessons would you be able to take from your pathways that add value to your zone? These lessons can be from any perceived good or bad circumstances that have occurred. They're all good, especially when you extract the lessons to take action. Where are you using them in your zone now? And where else can you apply those lessons? What does your zone look like? Are you where you want to be in your zone? Are you too comfortable and ready for something new and exciting? Are you ready for a new pathway that brings you greater prosperity, happiness, joy, love, health, relationships, whatever it is? Give me a shout. Sometimes we get lost in our zone and we wonder which direction to go next. Let's work together and identify what pathways are in front of you, which ones you actually do want to take a walk down, and which ones you want to change for a better outcome. You have an abundance of potential, and no matter how good you get, you will never reach your fullest potential, but rather your purest potential, as you will always have room for growth, even if it's 1% in your zone of potential. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next week.